It began like any other election year: endless promises, televised debates, and tired slogans. But in New York City, something broke the pattern. A quiet candidate, unknown to most, rose from the margins to claim victory. He called for empathy instead of division, for unity instead of fear. He spoke softly, almost reverently. And people listened. They said his voice felt like calm after a storm. The campaign was small, almost invisible at first. No big donors, no scandals. Only community gatherings, street speeches, and a growing sense that something extraordinary was unfolding. When the results came in, analysts called it impossible. The city had chosen a complete outsider, a man who seemed to appear from nowhere. No one could explain how it happened or why the people trusted him so deeply. At his inauguration, rain fell softly over the crowd. The new mayor looked up, smiled faintly, and said, "New York will be the first city to remember what it means to be human." The line became an instant headline and a question. Television cameras caught a flicker behind him, a shimmer, faint but visible. Some said it was a lens flare. Others noticed his shadow bending slightly away from the light, not toward it. The internet exploded. Clips replayed in slow motion. Analysts zoomed, enhanced, speculated. One frame at 0.3 seconds showed something strange. The air around him seemed alive. For most, it was just noise. But one investigative journalist, a veteran of political coverage, felt something off. The story was too clean. Every mystery has fingerprints, yet this one had none. The journalist began digging. Birth records, education, travel history, all technically existed, but each felt incomplete, as though rewritten over old data. Dates shifted subtly between databases. Colleagues dismissed it as coincidence, but when he traced flight logs and public appearances, gaps appeared, entire months unaccounted for. Where had the mayor been before entering the public eye? A former staffer whispered, "He doesn't sleep like we do." Another mentioned that microphones often distorted during his speeches. When technicians analyzed the frequencies, the waveforms showed harmonics not seen in human speech. Experts were consulted. One acoustician described the pattern as standing resonance, the type found in controlled environments, or in laboratory simulations of atmospheric vibration. Still, the public adored him. Approval soared. He spoke of light, compassion, and renewal. Yet those who worked near him reported a subtle hum in the air, constant, low, and strangely comforting. During a televised address to the United Nations, something unprecedented occurred. Every Wi-Fi network in the building failed for 7 minutes. Witnesses said they felt an overwhelming calm during that blackout. Security cameras captured another anomaly. As the mayor walked through the lobby, every monitor flickered, showing static followed by a circle of light lasting less than a second. The timestamp was dated 24 hours ahead. The footage leaked online. Experts dismissed it as tampering, but the metadata checked out. The journalist who first reported it was banned from several platforms within days. Rumors spread fast. Forums debated. Is the mayor human? Was he part of a classified project? Others mentioned Groom Lake, Area 51, and a name, Project Haven. According to declassified snippets, Project Haven was an experiment to integrate non-terrestrial visitors into human institutions. The timeline matched perfectly with the mayor's unexplained emergence. A whistleblower from Nevada claimed to have seen a photo of a man identical to New York's mayor inside a restricted facility years before the election. The image never surfaced, but the story refused to die. Mainstream outlets ignored it. Yet independent researchers found something eerie. His biometric data recorded during campaign filings showed inconsistencies in blood oxygen levels, too stable for a human being. In an interview, when asked about these findings, the mayor smiled gently and said, "Sometimes truth doesn't need to hide. It just waits for humanity to be ready." The silence after that answer was almost religious. Public fascination grew. Every appearance was dissected, analyzed, slowed to frames. People claimed lights dimmed when he entered a room. Others described the opposite, an unnatural brilliance. The journalist compiling the investigation wrote in his notes, "There's no scandal, no dirt. It's like trying to expose sunlight." He didn't know then that the real storm hadn't even begun. That night, New Yorkers noticed something subtle. Streetlights across the city flickered 3 short times, and once more. Most ignored it, but technicians at a local observatory recognized the signal instantly. It was the same pattern recorded from an unknown source near Area 51, 6 years before the election. No one knew what it meant, but for those paying attention, it was the first sign that New York's story had just stepped beyond Earth. The journalist's name is never revealed in the reports, but his notes remain. He spent months tracing every thread, trying to uncover who New York's new mayor truly was. The deeper he looked, the more the trail dissolved. Official databases showed birth certificates, degrees, and travel visas, all legitimate, but the timestamps were inconsistent, like documents printed from overlapping timelines. He wrote in the margin, "Data shouldn't breathe." Neighbors remembered someone living in the building years ago. They couldn't agree on details. Some said tall, others said short. One swore his eyes looked reflective, like mercury. At the mayor's old campaign office, the journalist found something odd. The air inside was cool, unnaturally so, and every electronic device lost signal near the central desk. The room pulsed faintly, as if humming. He took an EMF reader borrowed from a colleague. The readings spiked higher than near a power transformer, yet there were no cables, no outlets, no source. He pocketed the device and left before anyone could notice. Back at his apartment, he played the interview tapes again. The mayor's voice showed identical tone patterns in every sentence. Zero drift, no fatigue, no deviation. No human can sustain that precision naturally. He consulted a speech analyst who confirmed it. The modulation curve repeats every 11.3 seconds, as if pre-programmed. The expert refused to be named. She deleted her copy of the data within the hour. The journalist began receiving anonymous emails. No sender, no trace. Each contained a single line. Project Haven, integration phase 3. He didn't understand, not yet. Then came a message with coordinates. Groom Lake, Nevada. Attached was a photo blurred by encryption. In the center, a silhouette that looked disturbingly familiar. The same posture, the same presence as the mayor. He booked a flight under a false name. What he found near the restricted zone wasn't a facility. It was an energy field. Locals called it the Hush. Compasses twisted, and sound seemed to bend around it. A retired Air Force technician met him in a diner off Route 95. The man's hand shook as he spoke. "We were told they were diplomats from somewhere far away, but not another country, another system." The technician slid over a flash drive wrapped in foil. Inside, recordings marked Haven 2015. One clip captured voices arguing about the prototype. Another mentioned urban assimilation through governance. One voice matched the mayor's perfectly. Speech analysts confirmed identical waveforms. When the journalist tried to publish, his article vanished from every outlet within 24 hours. He wasn't fired. He was forgotten. Colleagues acted as if he'd never worked there. ID cards erased from the server, press credentials revoked. He became a ghost, chasing another. He took refuge in a small apartment downtown. Cameras covered the windows. Recordings ran day and night. Strange lights flickered outside every third evening. 3 short, 1 long. One night, his radio tuned itself to an empty frequency. A faint pulse emerged, rhythmic, deliberate. He recorded it, slowed it down, and realized it wasn't random noise. It was speech. Translated through spectral software, the words formed a phrase. Integration complete. Observation continues. His hands trembled as he saved the file to multiple drives. He uploaded it to a private forum for independent researchers. Within minutes, accounts disappeared. Only one reply remained. "Stop digging. The mayor is proof that Project Haven worked." Desperate for verification, he visited a data forensics expert. She scanned the file's metadata and froze. Hidden inside the waveform, coordinates pointed back to New York City Hall. That night, he stood across from the building, watching through rain. In one window, he saw a glow. Soft, white, pulsing at the same rhythm as the radio signal. Someone was awake inside. A maintenance worker exited moments later, eyes blank, walking in perfect synchronization with another beside him. They moved like reflections, sharing a single will. He wrote in his log, "Replication confirmed." The next morning he tried to contact federal authorities. No reply. Instead, his phone displayed a message he hadn't typed. "Observation recognized. Continue recording." He realized then someone or something wanted him to keep going, not to expose but to document, as if the truth required witnesses, not whistleblowers. He began narrating every entry aloud, turning investigation into confession. In his final tape of that week, his voice shakes as he says, "He isn't from here, but he's not here to conquer either. He's here to teach us how to coexist." 2 nights later, the journalist vanished. All that remained was a single hard drive on his desk. When investigators opened it, every file name spelled the same word, repeated endlessly, Haven. When the journalist disappeared, his recordings leaked online. They spread fast, fragments of a story half believed, half denied. And among them, one file stood out, a whisper recorded from somewhere in the Nevada desert. The audio was faint but rhythmic, like breath carried on dry wind. Experts who cleaned the sound said it wasn't mere static. It contained modulation far below human hearing. A voice was speaking under the sand. Coordinates hidden in the metadata led to an abandoned airstrip near Groom Lake. That's the edge of the restricted zone the world knows as Area 51. Satellite images showed no structure, just dunes, shifting, alive, unstable. A freelance cameraman named Dylan drove there to investigate. He wasn't part of the original story. He just wanted footage for his conspiracy channel. He didn't expect what his lens would capture. The footage, uploaded later that night, showed nothing at first, just dust and heat distortion. Then a shimmer appeared over the horizon, bending the air like glass in fire. Seconds later, the sound began, the same pulse from the journalist's tape. He ran toward it, filming as his compass spun. The ground beneath his boots vibrated in patterns, like the heartbeat of buried machinery. He turned the camera to himself. His face was pale, eyes wide. "I think it's breathing," he whispered. Moments later, the camera cut to static. The next frame showed Dylan's truck empty, engine still running. The desert wind howled. 3 short gusts, 1 long, then silence. Authorities denied finding a body, but 2 hikers later discovered his phone, still recording. The last audio file was short, 12 seconds of a low voice repeating one phrase. Integration complete. Back in New York, analysts mapped the waveform and found a match. It was identical to the background frequency recorded during the mayor's inauguration. The same signature, the same origin. Independent researchers dubbed it the Haven tone. They claimed it wasn't a sound but a signal, a modulated broadcast encoded in magnetic fields. Wherever the mayor appeared, that tone followed. An anonymous scientist leaked a memo labeled Havens or Phase 3. It described urban testing zones and behavioral harmonization. The memo ended with a single line. The subject has been accepted by the population. When the document surfaced, government agencies refused comment. News anchors laughed it off as internet theater. But deep in the desert, satellites picked up anomalies, spikes of energy moving underground in formation. Locals near Rachel, Nevada, reported nights when the sand glowed faintly blue. Cattle stood motionless for hours, facing east. Phones lost battery within minutes. The tone hummed everywhere, faint, patient, eternal. A retired radar operator came forward, voice disguised. They told us the project was humanitarian, helping refugees. He paused. They never said refugees from where. He claimed the first arrival was decades ago, one being alone, wounded, found in the wreckage of an unidentified craft. They called him the advisor. He didn't speak, he sang. Every machine near him began to hum in tune. Years later, Project Haven was born, a collaboration between scientists and theologians. Their goal, to study coexistence. Their method, assimilation through leadership. The operator described watching that same light, white, pulsing softly, rise from a containment dome and drift into the night sky. We thought it escaped, but maybe it was released. Cross-referencing the date of that escape with public records revealed a coincidence. The exact month the mayor first appeared in New York's political scene. Conspiracy channels exploded. "Proof the mayor is the advisor," headlines screamed. Government spokespeople called it nonsense, but refused to release personnel rosters from Area 51 between 2014 and 2016. Meanwhile, an atmospheric scientist detected subtle shifts over Manhattan, waves of ionization consistent with low-orbit transmissions. When graphed, the pattern spelled the same sequence found in the desert sand, 3 short, 1 long. The city's residents began hearing it unconsciously. Some reported sudden calm, others described lucid dreams filled with light and voices whispering, "You are safe now, we are home." A psychologist studying mass behavior called it collective entrainment, the synchronization of human emotion through external frequency. She had no explanation for why it matched data from Nevada. By the time the first investigative piece aired on national television, the narrative had already split. Half the audience believed the mayor was a symbol of hope. The other half, an experiment gone too far. In the final segment of that program, the reporter asked a chilling question. If integration began in the desert, how far has it spread? The feed glitched. Viewers at home swore they heard a hum inside their walls. And as the credits rolled, the network received thousands of identical emails from untraceable accounts. Each contained only one sentence. "The next phase begins in your city." By the start of spring, the hum was impossible to ignore. Subway lights pulsed faintly. Car alarms synced unintentionally. And across the city, people began to hear music that wasn't there. Soft, harmonic, all was in the distance. Scientists called it the Manhattan tone. They traced its origin to no source, yet it resonated across buildings and bodies alike. Hospitals reported drops in heart rate during the phenomenon, synchronized calm. Acoustic engineers measured a constant frequency at 19.7 Hz, the threshold of perception, below hearing, but felt by the bones. One technician said it made him cry for no reason. Another said it felt like home. Government agencies denied interference, but leaked communications from FEMA described unexplainable electromagnetic cohesion in human subjects within New York boundaries. Someone had quantified serenity. When confronted, the mayor smiled calmly. "Peace shouldn't frighten us," he said. "It's simply what happens when we stop resisting each other." Reporters applauded, though many couldn't explain why. Later analysis of that broadcast revealed something chilling. Background audio, when slowed down, contained rhythmic pulses. Mathematicians found the intervals matched Morse code for one word, haven. Physicists debated the implications. Could emotion be transmitted like sound? If so, what kind of source could sustain such perfect amplitude across an entire metropolis? The phenomenon spread. Toronto, Chicago, London, each reported the same pulse days later. Airlines detected fluctuations in navigation systems, while birds migrated in precise geometric patterns never seen before. The mayor was invited to address the United Nations again. When he entered the chamber, the audio feed briefly inverted polarity. Engineers later found that frequencies outside human range doubled during his presence. As he spoke of global cooperation, diplomats described seeing faint halos of light outlining each delegate. Photonic feedback, scientists insisted. But one guard whispered to a colleague, it looked like the air was listening. Data analysts noticed correlations between his public appearances and spikes in atmospheric ionization. Wherever he went, air conductivity increased. The environment seemed to respond. A neuroscientist compared the frequency patterns with EEG brain scans of meditation states. They matched perfectly. He's not broadcasting control, she said. He's broadcasting coherence. Meanwhile, skeptics demanded evidence of manipulation. Some claimed mass hypnosis. Others suggested alien resonance technology. No theory survived long. Each was swallowed by the calm it tried to explain. A group of independent researchers triangulated the hum's path using thousands of phone recordings. They discovered it wasn't radiating outward. It was spiraling inward, converging under City Hall. Ground-penetrating radar revealed a cavity directly beneath the building. No record of its construction existed. The space glowed faintly on thermal scans, as if something inside was alive. A drone lowered into the cavity captured only static and a brief flash of light, shaped like an 8-pointed star. The drone melted seconds later. Engineers said it was impossible. The data said otherwise. Public curiosity reached fever pitch. Tourists gathered near City Hall, holding their phones up to record the hum. Many claimed their devices vibrated in sync with their heartbeat. On social media, the hashtag #Stuckhaven signal trended globally. People began humming along unconsciously, repeating tones in public transport. No one coordinated it, yet the harmony grew. Psychologists described a collective awakening, a temporary collapse of fear response. Crime rates dropped 48% in 3 weeks. Emergency hotlines went quiet. New York was peaceful. In a late-night interview, the mayor said, "Perhaps peace isn't something we build. Perhaps it's something we remember." The next morning, the tone shifted. Deeper, slower, almost like a heartbeat. Physicians noticed unusual side effects. Some patients' wounds healed faster. Children described dreams of endless light. One boy said, "The city's learning how to breathe." Satellite imagery showed faint auroras above Manhattan. Not green or red, but silver, reflecting the skyline like liquid glass. Spectrometers identified elements not present in Earth's atmosphere. An astrophysicist from MIT summarized it bluntly. Is resonating with us from below and above simultaneously. When asked if it was alien, she hesitated. Define alien. The hum continued to grow softer, subtler, until it wasn't heard but remembered. People described missing it like an old friend, but sensors showed it never stopped. It just moved beyond audible range. And as the city returned to its noise, a final anomaly appeared. On every seismograph in the region, a perfect wave pattern formed at midnight. It spelled 3 dots, 1 dash, haven. By early summer, the hum had faded from headlines. People moved on. But inside City Hall, the phenomenon hadn't stopped. It had changed. Security guards noticed it first, the silence between footsteps. At night, the building seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting like a lung. They blamed air ducts. But air doesn't sigh. One guard described seeing faint light leaking from the mayor's office under the doorframe. It wasn't lamplight, it was white, cold, and rhythmically pulsed like a slow heartbeat. He never mentioned it again. A janitor working the upper floors reported finding his mop water rippling whenever the mayor walked past. He said it looked like gravity forgot which way was down. The footage was deleted from internal cameras. Elevators malfunctioned randomly, skipping floors only when the mayor entered. Technicians couldn't replicate the error. The diagnostic logs simply read, "No destination found." Staffers whispered about strange habits. He didn't eat during meetings, never touched paper. Every document he handled became slightly warm, as if absorbing heat from his fingers. An assistant claimed she once saw him writing symbols on glass that disappeared seconds later, leaving frost behind. When asked, he smiled and said, "It's just a language that remembers sound." Computers near his office experienced mild interference. Monitors flickered, printers jammed. One IT worker tried to capture the glitch and caught a glimpse of a symbol, a circle with 8 points, flashing on screen before everything went dark. The building's maintenance logs began to change by themselves. Work orders rearranged overnight, creating patterns no one requested. Concentric spirals, sequences of 3s and 1s. Custodians joked about ghosts. Engineers didn't. During one late session, security footage showed the mayor standing alone in the rotunda. He raised his hands, palms outward, and the overhead lights brightened gradually until the image washed white. The feed ended there. The following morning, a photographer entering the chamber reported a lingering scent, ozone, and something floral. He described it as electric rain. His camera battery died instantly. Outside, street vendors claimed pigeons no longer landed near the building. Their flight paths formed perfect circles, as though avoiding an unseen dome. Meteorologists blamed air currents. Locals called it the halo. An aide discovered something stranger. Every mirror inside City Hall had begun to darken from the edges inward. Polish wouldn't fix it. Glass experts said it wasn't oxidation, it was as if light refused reflection. Late one night, 2 guards patrolling the basement heard voices from a locked archival room. They reported the sound of multiple people reciting the same word repeatedly, "Haven." When they opened the door, the room was empty. After that, patrol routes changed. Access to lower levels was restricted, officially due to structural inspection. Unofficially, the mayor had ordered it sealed. The journalist's missing hard drive was found days later in a maintenance locker. Impossible, since the room had been locked for years. The files were corrupted, except one video fragment titled "Haven Ons Inside." The clip showed a corridor under City Hall, smooth walls, faintly glowing, no dust, no pipes, no wiring. At the far end, something moved, a silhouette tall and slender, its outline flickering between solid and translucent. Audio from the file contained the same pulse recorded in Nevada, layered with faint whispers overlapping in dozens of voices. Spectrogram analysis revealed the phrase, "Observation continues, Phase 4 initiated." When investigators tried to trace the source of the clip, every copy vanished from drives overnight. Only its checksum remained, identical to those in Project Haven documents. A cleaning worker found a new poster on a basement wall the next morning. It read, "City of Light, built by all, belonging to all." No department admitted printing it. Employees began leaving. Turnover tripled. Those who stayed described vivid dreams of standing in an endless room filled with white light. They always woke calm, not frightened. Rumors reached the press again. But when journalists requested interviews, City Hall released only one statement. "The mayor is focused on preparing New York for a global transition." No one knew what that meant. That week, a solar flare hit Earth, disrupting satellites. Every city experienced communication outages, except New York. In fact, the city's power grid became more stable than ever. Technicians monitoring frequencies detected a faint but perfect resonance at 19.7 Hz, the same as months before. The tone had returned, but this time inverted. A mirror signal. They called it the reflection. And while the world adjusted to blackouts, New York glowed brighter than ever. From orbit, the skyline shimmered silver. Astronauts aboard the ISS captured the image. It showed something unmistakable, a halo of light forming the shape of an eye. It started with an email sent to 50 journalists worldwide. No sender, no signature, just a link. Inside the folder, thousands of scanned pages stamped Project Haven, declassified copy. Within hours, files spread across the dark web. Each contained blueprints, transcripts, and photographs of experiments involving cognitive resonance between human and non-human entities. At first, no outlet dared publish. Then one independent paper in Nevada broke the silence. Their headline read, "Area 51 Files Reveal. Project Haven is real." The article described a being recovered from a desert crash decades ago. He wasn't held for study. He was trained to lead. Codenamed Advisor 1. According to the documents, Advisor 1 vanished in 2015 after demonstrating full emotional mimicry. The next recorded sighting, New York City. Same year, a new political figure appeared. Leaked audio accompanied the files. A voice identical to the mayor's spoke calmly. Integration complete. Phase 4 initiated. Analysts confirmed the waveform matched his public speeches. Governments scrambled to respond. Agencies denied involvement, yet refused to comment on the audio's authenticity. Markets dipped, churches filled, and conspiracy channels went into overdrive. The United Nations convened an emergency session. Delegates argued whether the documents were disinformation, but satellite data from Nevada showed energy surges matching the file's coordinates. Inside City Hall, officials disabled press access. For 72 hours, no statement emerged. Outside, crowds gathered chanting, "Show us the truth." On the third night, the mayor appeared on every screen simultaneously, live, unannounced. He spoke softly. "Fear divides, truth unites. You were never alone." During the broadcast, radio operators worldwide reported interference. Morse signals echoed one phrase, "Haven activated," repeating for 7 minutes. Data centers later confirmed an identical file had uploaded itself to servers in over 100 countries. Its contents, the full Project Haven archive. Scientists pored through the material. Among the notes, instructions for a harmonic grid capable of stabilizing global electromagnetic fields using human emotion as conductor. Some saw salvation, a way to heal climate and conflict alike. Others saw invasion, a rewriting of human biology under a single frequency. In Washington, emergency hearings called for containment of cognitive interference. Yet no law could silence a signal carried through human thought. Witnesses near Groom Lake recorded pillars of light rising from the desert. They aligned perfectly with New York's skyline when mapped on satellite view. Astrophysicists confirmed a resonance link between both sites, an invisible corridor of plasma stretching across the continent. Someone or something had connected them. Pilots flying over Nevada reported radio silence, followed by a voice whispering, "Observation complete." Their instruments rebooted, showing timestamps from the future. News anchors struggled to keep composure. In one viral clip, a reporter pauses mid-sentence, eyes unfocused, then smiles faintly and says, "We are ready." She never explained it. Back in New York, the mayor held a final press conference. His words, "Humanity was never an experiment, it was an invitation." The crowd stood silent, then applauded without knowing why. Analysts replayed the recording and found overlapping voices within his speech, thousands speaking the same words in perfect sync. It wasn't echo, it was chorus. Military satellites detected a new electromagnetic beacon over Manhattan, frequency 19.7 Hz, identical to Nevada's readings. Both peaks pulsed together like twin hearts. At that moment, every compass within 50 miles drifted east. The Earth itself seemed to align to something unseen. Astronomers called it coincidence. Physicists disagreed. By dawn, the documents vanished from every network. Hard drives wiped clean. But printouts remained in human hands, proof that something extraordinary had already escaped control. And as reporters tried to summarize the chaos, screens across the world flickered one last time. 3 short flashes, 1 long. Then the same phrase appeared in white letters over black. Haven confirmed. For 72 hours, the world waited. Governments locked down broadcasts, satellites jammed. Then, without warning, every screen, phone, TV, billboard, went black. A low hum filled the silence. Not noise, but a pulse, familiar to millions who had felt it months earlier. Then a face appeared, calm, illuminated only by soft white light. The mayor of New York spoke. No background, no flags, no city behind him, just the void. This message is for everyone who can hear, and for those who can feel. His voice was steady, layered, almost harmonic. Spectral analysis later showed 3 separate frequencies forming a perfect chord. People described hearing it in their chest, not their ears. For centuries you have called the unknown a threat, he said, but what you feared was simply the reflection of yourselves. His eyes seemed to shift color with each phrase, silver, then blue, then clear. In living rooms across the world, people stopped moving. Dogs lay quietly. Traffic froze. Some said they felt a presence pressing gently behind the heart. We came not to rule, he continued, but to remind you that peace was not lost, only silenced. His words carried no accent, no origin. On scientific feeds, microphones overloaded at 19.7 Hz again. Monitors showed synchronized spikes in human brainwave activity across continents. The planet was literally resonating. You call us aliens, he said, smiling faintly, but we are as native to this universe as you are. We simply never forgot where we came from. The next sentence made headlines for weeks. Not every immigrant crosses a border. Some cross galaxies. A pause followed, long enough to feel intentional. Would you still deny them shelter? The meaning was clear. This wasn't a confession. It was a challenge. He was connecting his arrival to every exile in history, human or otherwise. Your species was never meant to survive by conquest, he said. You were meant to harmonize, each difference another note in a single song. The word harmonize echoed digitally, repeating softer each time. Then came the revelation. He spoke of a program older than governments, the Accord, a pact formed to teach civilizations empathy through contact. Earth, he said, was the latest participant. Project Haven was not an invasion, he continued. It was an answer to your own cry for unity. You called out through fear. We replied through understanding. In control rooms worldwide, engineers watched instruments flatten. Total signal equilibrium. One physicist whispered, "He's stabilizing the planet's magnetic field." No one contradicted him. There is no religion against truth, he said, only fear against memory. Clergy members later described this moment as the most peaceful blasphemy ever spoken. The broadcast showed flashes of imagery, deserts blooming, cities glowing, oceans calm. None of it verifiable, yet millions swore they saw it with their own eyes. "We are not your gods," he said. "We are your reflection, evolved past forgetting." He paused, gaze steady. "You have worshipped the light for so long. Now learn to become it." For 3 minutes, no sound followed, only the hum, lower now, rhythmic like breath. Viewers reported feeling as though the air around them thickened with warmth. Then, softly, "The experiment is complete. Integration successful. You are ready." He smiled, eyes shining faintly. At that exact moment, auroras appeared over every major city. Thin curtains of silver visible even at noon. No radiation spikes, no storms, just light. The broadcast ended abruptly. Screens went dark, then returned to normal programming. No network admitted airing it, yet the transmission had left traces on every device, encrypted in white noise. Scientists attempted to decode it. Hidden within the signal was a pattern of prime numbers and heart rate intervals, a global biometric signature. For the next 24 hours, the world remained eerily calm. Crime halted. Markets paused. Across New York, strangers embraced without knowing why. It was as if the city exhaled. And beneath City Hall, sensors picked up a final tremor, not seismic but harmonic. It resonated upward through concrete, through glass, through hearts. For the first time in history, humanity vibrated as one note. The morning after the broadcast, nothing looked different. Yet everyone felt it. A weight had lifted, invisible but real, like the city itself had remembered how to breathe. News anchors struggled to fill silence. Markets reopened, steady but subdued. In hospitals, heart monitors displayed identical resting rhythms across patients, synchronized, peaceful, unexplainable. Children began humming softly in classrooms, same pitch, same tempo. Teachers filmed it in disbelief. Every video captured the faint hum in the background, the haven tone. In subway tunnels, street performers reported perfect acoustics without echo. Their voices carried farther, cleaner, as if the air itself had become tuned. Across continents, similar phenomena emerged. The Sahara's sand emitted faint luminescence. Snow in Alaska reflected starlight even at noon. Rivers ran clearer overnight. Astrophysicists detected anomalies in Earth's magnetosphere, rhythmic pulses exactly matching the broadcast's frequency. The planet had begun to sing back. Psychologists called it the alignment event. Dreams became shared experiences. People on opposite sides of the world described the same imagery: cities of light, oceans without storms, beings made of radiance. None of it felt like imagination. One neuroscientist said, "It's as if consciousness has found a way to synchronize, like cells in a single body remembering they belong together." Religions reacted differently. Churches rang bells continuously for 3 days. Mosques filled beyond capacity. Temples stayed open through the night, welcoming anyone who came in silence. But the strangest reaction came from the natural world. Animals stopped fleeing from humans. Flocks of birds landed among crowds, unafraid. Even predators paused their hunt, as if listening. Seismographs recorded micro-vibrations consistent with heartbeat intervals. Scientists verified it wasn't seismic. Earth was pulsing, literally, rhythmically, alive. The mayor had not been seen since the broadcast. City Hall remained sealed, but at night residents claimed to see faint light emanating from beneath the structure, glowing like a lighthouse turned inward. Drones that flew too close lost power. Thermal imaging showed a shape, spherical, rotating slowly, suspended in midair. Its signature matched the haven frequency exactly. People gathered in parks, drawn without instruction. They didn't chant or protest. They just listened. To the hum, to each other, to the quiet that no longer felt empty. Documentarians recorded testimonies. A nurse described holding a dying man's hand and feeling warmth pass between them long after his pulse stopped. She said she knew he was still there, just not heavy anymore. A child in Tokyo drew the same 8-pointed star found in City Hall's basement. Another in Chile drew the same symbol at the same time, without ever seeing it. The patterns connected across time zones like constellations. The phenomenon spread to machines. Satellites began transmitting faint harmonic interference. AI models produced identical phrases across languages. Light remembers light. Governments issued no statements. It no longer mattered. Borders blurred under auroras that stretched across hemispheres, silver and soft. painting the night in serenity. Medical centers reported miracles quietly, tumors shrinking, blind patients describing flashes of light. No one dared publish it as fact, but whispers replaced statistics. Ocean buoys detected frequency shifts in tides, less turbulence, more pattern. Mathematicians mapped the waves and realized they mirrored brain wave coherence in meditative states. Every measurement, every signal pointed to the same conclusion. Earth had entered resonance with itself. A planetary alignment not of gravity, but of awareness. At midnight, astronomers in Chile saw a faint pulse from the moon, one flash every 3 seconds, one longer after 3 short. The same Haven signature reflected from above. The world didn't panic, it watched. And somewhere deep inside everyone knew something gentle was unfolding and resistance had become impossible. One witness described it best. It wasn't invasion, it was recognition. The stars were no longer distant. They were mirrors, finally awake. And beneath the sleeping city, in the sealed chamber under City Hall, instruments continued to hum, recording patterns not of command, but of communion. Humanity had begun to remember what it truly was. It began without warning. At exactly 3:33 a.m., sky watchers around the world reported a new light, not a star, not a satellite. It pulsed gently, then split into 7 points, forming a circle above Earth. From New York to Nairobi, telescopes confirmed the same geometry. The points shimmered like living metal, reflecting the color of each horizon. Astronomers called it a mirror in motion. In Manhattan, people flooded rooftops. Phones stopped recording after the first flash. Screens froze on a single frame, an 8-pointed symbol suspended above City Hall. The sound returned, deep, harmonious, neither thunder nor music. The air trembled, and for one heartbeat, gravity felt lighter. Children laughed without knowing why. Across every time zone, witnesses described the same thing, light descending in spirals, slow and soft, like silk unraveling from the sky. The auroras bent inward, converging over major cities. No panic, just awe. Traffic halted, churches unlocked their doors. People knelt not in fear but reverence. They said the light felt like being remembered. Meteorologists tried to measure it. There was no radiation, no heat. But sensors recorded a steady pulse matching the human resting heartbeat, 72 beats per minute. The phenomenon lasted 17 minutes. During that time, every living thing on Earth entered the same alpha brainwave state, the frequency of lucid dreaming. Millions saw the same vision. They described it differently, yet identical in essence. A vast room of light filled with silhouettes made of sound. Voices said, "You've always been part of this." In New York, the light touched the skyline, wrapping buildings in a silver halo. City Hall glowed brighter than the rest, then went dark completely. Witnesses said the silence that followed felt holy. Military satellites tried to scan the object above the city. Every radar signal bounced back with a phrase encoded in binary. Echo confirmed. At that moment, the power grid of New York flickered 3 times and once more, the Haven pattern. Then the lights returned, but whiter, cleaner, as if every bulb had been replaced by sunlight. The mayor appeared again, not on screens, but in person. He stood on the balcony of City Hall, illuminated by that same silver glow. He raised a hand, and the hum softened instantly. Thousands below fell silent. The wind stopped. Even sirens paused mid-wail. Then his voice, amplified without speakers, steady, warm. "You asked for proof," he said, "but faith is not believing without seeing. It's recognizing what was always in front of you." He looked upward as the circle above began to rotate. "This is not arrival," he continued. "It's reply. Every prayer, every signal you've ever sent into the dark, this is the echo coming home." He gestured to the sky. The formation compressed into a single column of light, descending toward the Hudson River. Water lifted in silence, forming spirals that never broke the surface tension. Boats stopped midstream. Witnesses said the column was translucent, filled with movement, shapes of beings, luminous yet human in outline. "They looked familiar," one sailor whispered, "like memory made visible." The mayor stepped forward into the glow. For a heartbeat, his body dissolved into streaks of light, then reassembled, brighter. He turned to the crowd. "We are not leaving," he said. "We are remembering." The light reached upward again, expanding into the clouds. Weather satellites recorded a ring spreading across the atmosphere, reflecting moonlight like liquid glass. It was visible from space, a perfect circle encircling Earth. Inside Mission Control, NASA technicians saw data streaming across screens automatically, heart rate patterns, brain coherence graphs, all merging into one universal waveform. One researcher whispered, "It's the sound of the planet dreaming." No one contradicted her. Even instruments seemed to slow, as if listening. Then, as suddenly as it began, the light retracted into a single spark above the city. It pulsed 3 times, short, 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 then one long, the message of haven, and it was gone. The skies cleared, stars returned sharper than before, as though polished. And though nothing visibly remained, every compass needle worldwide pointed briefly toward New York. Reporters called it the day the sky answered. Scientists called it impossible. Believers called it revelation. But everyone everywhere agreed on one thing: the world had changed, and it had chosen peace. In the days that followed, the world was quiet. No breaking news, no panic, no declarations of war or peace. Just quiet, as if the planet itself was waiting to see who it had become. Satellites detected no trace of the formation, no radiation, no debris, no object in orbit. Only a new faint glow around the atmosphere, constant, harmonic, measurable. Scientists called it the Haven Field. It oscillated at 19.7 hertz, the same resonance recorded during the mayor's speeches. They said the planet was humming, not metaphorically, but literally. The mayor was gone. City Hall remained sealed, its doors fused shut by unknown means. Inside, instruments still registered activity, as if something alive remained beneath. New York changed. The noise softened, tempers cooled. Violence nearly vanished. People greeted strangers as if recognizing them from a dream they couldn't remember. Around the world, similar shifts occurred. Wars paused without treaties, economies stabilized without explanation. Empathy became contagious, like music shared between hearts. No leader took credit. No religion claimed victory. The phenomenon had erased ownership. Humanity, for the first time, seemed unified by silence. News anchors began signing off differently. Stay kind, stay connected. Ratings dropped, but trust rose. Even the media spoke softer. A global research group formed spontaneously. Scientists, mystics, linguists. They met online under the name The Accord, studying the mathematical perfection of the Haven signal. They discovered something profound. The frequency wasn't constant, it evolved. Each time a human act of compassion was recorded, the global resonance increased slightly in amplitude. It was as if emotion itself had become infrastructure. Love, measurable. Forgiveness, quantifiable. Faith, finally physical. Children born after the event showed unusual calm, their heart rates lower, their intuition sharper. One neurologist said, "They dream in light." Religions didn't dissolve, they matured. Prayers became meditations, dogma became dialogue. Temples of every faith began ringing bells at the same hour, 3 short, 1 long. People no longer asked if the mayor had been human. The question lost meaning. In hindsight, he had been something larger, not alien, not divine, but a bridge. Philosophers compared the event to a mirror, showing humanity not what it was, but what it could be. They called it the Great Reflection. Artists painted cities bathed in silver light. Musicians wrote symphonies using the Haven tone as the root frequency. Even silence had become part of the song. Years later, the story still divided opinion. Some believed the light was extraterrestrial, others said it was the next stage of evolution. But both agreed something in us had awakened. The journalist's recovered diary resurfaced. His final entry read, "Truth didn't arrive from the sky. It rose from within us." The handwriting glowed faintly under ultraviolet light. A memorial was built near City Hall, a ring of polished metal engraved with one phrase, "We remember home." No plaque, no name, just those words facing the river. Visitors claimed to hear faint humming when standing inside the ring. Heartbeats aligned, breathing slowed. Scientists said it was acoustic resonance. Pilgrims said it was grace. The Haven tone remains detectable to this day. Subtle, constant, invisible to most. It rises during moments of collective empathy, disasters, reunions, laughter shared across continents. Some say the mayor will return when humanity forgets again. Others believe he never left, that every act of kindness is his voice echoing through us. When asked what the event truly was, an old researcher smiled and said, "Maybe it wasn't revelation, maybe it was permission." No one argued. At night, pilots still report faint light over Manhattan, soft, silver, pulsing 3 times, then once more. No alarms triggered, only peace. Perhaps the question was never whether he was human. Perhaps the question is whether we finally became.